Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. And thank you for joining our CKAN Monthly Live number 37. I'm really happy to see you from all the different time zones. So today we are spotlighting a major milestone in South Africa's open data journey. That's the Durban EDGE Portal. As you can see on the screen, it is developed by Open Cities Lab. For the eThekwini Municipality, and really, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, but they will pronounce it later on, our guests. So Durban EDGE is the city's flagship platform for economic intelligence. It is built on CKAN, and it's giving policymakers, researchers, and innovators transparent access to data that drives smarter, evidence-based decisions. We are joined here by two people who helped bring this vision to life. Wasim, I hope that's correct. And he's Chief Technology Officer at Open Cities Lab and Tech Lead on the EDGE Portal. And also Joanne Parker, who's Chief Product Officer and Product Manager for the EDGE project. Wasim will walk us through the technical architecture and what he calls the Sleeping Beauty, CKAN's Datastore. And Joanne will share how collaboration, co-development, and good storytelling turn open data in real civic impact. Before I give them the mic, I do have some housekeeping items. The agenda for today is welcoming introductions. That's me right now talking. Then we have the presentation from Open Cities Lab. Then we have community announcements, Q&A session, community announcements and sharing, and closing remarks. I've pinned the meeting notes document in the chat. I really hope everybody can see it. Most of you are familiar with it. It's our single source of truth document. You can open it, and at the beginning, you can add your name, organization, what brings you to CKAN. Thanks, Kate. Kate is dropping a link again. What brings you to CKAN, and then you will be able to find all the relevant links. It's your go-to place for agenda ideas, for future meetup suggestions, and some relevant links. There are two ways to ask a question. You can either raise a hand and go ahead if you're feeling brave today, or you can drop your question in the chat, and in that case, either Kate or myself will bring it up for you. We have a monthly newsletter. We don't spam. So if you want to subscribe, you can do it on our website or in the meeting notes document. And the session is being recorded and it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. Yeah, without further ado, let's dive in. Wasim and Joanne should be co-hosts, so some of you probably should be able to share their screen. So can you try and let me know if everything's fine? I'm stopping now my screen sharing.
Hi, everyone. It's so lovely to be here. I'm Joanne from Open Cities Lab. A real honor to join you today. If you'll allow me a 2-minute cheesy video, I think it will be really nice to see the partners, the eThekwini officials aren't here today to join us. So this is this little video is the best we can do, but I'm a bit wary. I'm going to try and play it and just let me know if the sound doesn't work, it doesn't work. But yeah, let me try. Are you hearing it?
No, not getting any sound.
Not really.
Sure.
Not okay. All right. No, I'll just drop the link to the video in the chat if it's just now. It's no stress. So the EDGE program that has been running for 7 years. It was one of Open Cities Lab's first sort of big projects. We received funding from the South African Cities Network to do it. South African Cities Network is a member organization and it holds 10 South African cities. They all pay a subscription, and then the organization fundraisers as well. And they had a program where they were consolidating data indicators across all of the cities in South Africa in order for them to share data, benchmark each other against each other. The idea was to have a central portal, which is called SCODA, the South African Cities Open Data Almanac, and then to have data sharing platforms per city as well. This eThekwini was by far the most prolific partner. They were already sharing data and analysis via PDFs to a mailing group. We worked specifically in the development planning department of eThekwini Municipality. And within that department, we worked with the unit that was responsible for disseminating information around development, with the explicit purpose of helping investors make investment decisions, and helping private sector, government, etc., make better, more informed decisions around how they spend their money, in the hope that it would grow development in eThekwini and grow job creation as a result. In South Africa, we've got one of the highest unemployment rates in the world, and job creation is the primary mission of most municipalities. We underwent an extensive consultation with them and partners. So we didn't just speak to the municipal team, we spoke to the people who were reading the PDF insights to ask them what they're looking for, what their data proficiency is. We developed user personas, and if anyone's interested, can share all of that information. And we then decided that we were going to deliver a portal that met users where they were at different proficiency or data proficiency levels. So the Datastore, the CKAN portal, was really good for researchers and users who wanted to download data and work with it. We also needed, though, places where the public could see information. Counselors who weren't necessarily as data proficient could see information. So we decided that we needed to add data stories and dashboards, excuse me, which we did originally as custom builds on top of the CKAN. And Wasim can speak more to that technology later. But what we found is that for a few years, we were the middleman, and honestly, it got to a point where the delay for the EDGE team, so they would send us the content and we would develop these custom data stories and custom dashboards for them, and we had a whole pipeline set up and we put a lot of work into it. It was still taking too long. And eventually what we did is we discovered Webflow, and we started to use Webflow instead of the custom system. And that CMS enabled our partners at eThekwini Municipality to really, we've now built in so many parts of the portal into the CMS. So almost everything that you see, sorry, I should have been sharing it all along. Sorry, excuse me, Wasim, can you maybe jump in? I'm just going to sort myself.
Yeah, no, not a problem at all. Yeah, so the journey here, just in terms of publishing data stories, was very interesting. So on one side, CKAN's UI we found was really good for technical people who had some understanding of what data sets they were looking for and navigating through Excel files and subsystems. However, we needed a way to showcase the indicators in a more broader perspective, especially with some BI tools and charting. Initially, what we did was we built a plug-in to CKAN, so just a CKAN extension, theming the theme a little bit, but also providing a static HTML pages where the content was written up by the partner or eThekwini in this particular case, and we collated that into an HTML page and put that on top of CKAN. It was a really good first go because we saw uptake on the stories itself. So people were really engaging with the data stories about the data sets that were in the CKAN. And it allowed us to bring in a more broader user base that want maybe as tech savvy and we're looking more for the analysis side of things. Yeah, so I think we then entered where Joe was talking about a bottleneck where we were the middleman of uploading those HTML pages, and we were looking for a full flow where the partner could come about, write their own stories, and even add in or iframe in or put in their Power BI or the BI charting. We looked at some options and we went with something called Webflow, which is a commercial platform, but it provided that middle ground of where we created a template for how the data story should be written, and the content was then written by the actual partners. Joe, I don't know if you want to dive back in or good.
Yeah, this was a game changer, and it was a game changer in tandem with something else that happened institutionally within the municipality. So they decided to add the content on the EDGE portal into their key performance indicators. I'm sure around the world in government it's the same, but key performance indicators are like gold for municipal officials. So they added that they actually had to upload 2 data stories and 2 data sets and update 2 dashboards. Those were on GDP and employment. And they had to do that every single quarter. And this is what their performance in sort of this area was going to be measured against. So in that time where we were a bit of a bottleneck and they needed to get things out faster, what they actually did is they added the data stories as PDFs onto the CKAN data store, which was really interesting. So there were a few months where the CKAN was actually it always was the most usable thing. And so they utilized that. And while they waited for us, the tech, to catch up, basically, and for us to get the Webflow and the CMS working. And as soon as the CMS was set up, they could then upload data stories and meet their KPIs through the portal without needing us at all. So at that point, we just became maintainers. The portal sort of didn't get any major updates, and the funding had then stopped. So for another couple of years, it went into the stage where they were happily adding their 2 data stories, 2 dashboards, etc., without much involvement from us. We were just making sure it was working. And over a year-long process, they've been able to procure. So Open Cities Lab, just to say, obviously we're a nonprofit organization. We consider ourselves the training wheels. We're not the back. So our ideal situation is that we hand over a portal like this to the municipality to run themselves. Unfortunately, they haven't been able, this department, development planning, and the EDGE unit haven't been able to gain traction with their IT colleagues, and so they don't have the capabilities in their own department to manage to run the portal. They haven't been able to hand it over to the IT department either. So unfortunately, we're in the situation where we're still providing this support to them. We're looking at exit strategies over this period. But it's really great that they were eventually able to procure our services, and they saw the benefit of the portal, and they really wanted to procure our services. Now we're in a position, just being procured since July, where we're able to start to invest actually new features. The filter and the year selects there actually was added last week on the request of the partner. So now we're we've done training again last week with new officials in the department so that more people can upload data stories and dashboards and data sets. The one of the blockers that we've had have been in the dashboard. So a key thing for us with the dashboards, just like the data stories, was that we wanted them to have full control of the pipeline, and they use Microsoft Power BI. Unfortunately, they also haven't been able to, so these were some custom dashboards that we developed for them in the start, that when we were still doing a custom site, that we've iframed in here. However, we really have wanted them to move on to Power BI and using the CMS to publish their own dashboards so that we can get out of the way. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to procure a Microsoft Power BI Pro license, which is the only version of Microsoft Power BI that allows them to publish dashboards publicly. So you can see here, even though the dashboard exists, it cannot be published. And this is, so as mentioned, it took us a year to be procured. Getting a license for Microsoft Pro is such a nightmare. These are the sorts of real challenges. And when Wasim and I chatted about doing this talk, we both, we spoke about like discussing the real challenges that we have working in the public sector. And these are some of them, and really would love any suggestions around these sorts of issues that I bring up in the chat. That would be super helpful. So I'm just going to flash my Slack over and so I can check my notes. Just checking. Yeah, so I think that's everything. Maybe just to say we've always had wonderful partners, and the having a champion who really believes in open data and someone to drive sharing has really been a huge success factor. So yeah, just the importance of having an excellent partner. Wasim, is there anything I've left out from a stakeholder side?
No, I think that covers it well. Maybe while I'm going through the tech, if anything sparks, you can jump in. Maybe that's a good segue into my part. So hello everyone, my name is Wasim Musa. I'm the CTO at Open Cities Lab and the original developer on the EDGE portal. So I'd like to take you all through the tech journey for the EDGE portal, but just noting that there were a few deployments of CKAN that we did before this. I'll do my best to share screen. There we go. Yeah, and just noting since then we've got multiple other CKAN instances in production, with the EDGE portal being one among South African cities, but there are a few others that we've deployed. From the tech side, as I mentioned a bit earlier, we started by theming out parts of the CKAN backend or the user interface for the data management system. So just neatened up some stuff we felt on our side with the plugin extension, added a few things from our side on themes. We also then wanted to improve some SEO, so we added a little bit more to the HTML or the layouts of the page, just so we could track certain things. And then last but not least, I'm trying to remove this, we added a feedback mechanism across the site where one could go via userback, which is a tool, and give some feedback about maybe a bug or some suggestion on the site. And we found this was particularly useful where anyone could come, whether they're on mobile or whatever device, and they could come to any part of the system, note a bug in real time, and send it through to us. Yeah, so that was as far as the styling was concerned. As mentioned, we then replaced the front page of CKAN with the Webflow content management system entirely. So you'd see, even if you go to the home page here, it kind of redirects you to the Webflow page automatically. And like I mentioned, this was predominantly to allow the city team to create their own data stories with the data system powering the data behind those data stories. Just something interesting of note, across our CKANs, we've been attacked by multiple bots and denial of services. Whilst this is not exclusive to CKAN, general CMSs are a target, but we have noticed when we've put CKAN in our domain, we do get targeted a bit more. We had like one major denial of service attack where one of our production CKANs got hit with like over 1 million requests in an hour. It almost took down our systems, but I'll mention later on how we managed to scale certain parts of CKAN to allow it to handle such traffic, and how we then toughened up our security measures through Cloudflare, and security firewall rules have helped us quite a bit, especially the user login pages where there were fake bot accounts getting created. Yeah, so I think just as far as tech is concerned, this was a package installed, so a single CKAN software installation on one virtual machine. We then pursued scaling up the CKAN deployment, specifically looking at the two major components in CKAN, the file store and the data store. So file store is simply where the CKAN resource for uploading files, and we really wanted to push the limits on uploading large files, as large as we could. And then the second one is the CKAN data store, which provides a database storage, which then powers APIs automatically configured through the CKAN ecosystem. That can be done through the data pusher or with the data store API directly. Sorry, is there a question? Let's see. Just double checking. Please stop me.
No, don't worry.
Yeah. Okay, no problem. Yeah, so those two components we looked at scaling up significantly as we did see larger data sets coming on, and we wanted to make the dashboarding the custom dashboards be powered by CKAN, and seeing how far we can scale those particular visualizations. So the initial version was very simple. We used Docker Compose for the core CKAN web services, and then we used object storage for the files and a managed Postgres for the database. So those two components can scale quite rapidly on cloud infrastructure, but the core web services were still stuck to a virtual machine. And this was a really good start because we could scale up those two services accordingly to our infrastructure. However, the web server was still stuck to a virtual machine, and you can only scale vertically, meaning you can only add resources to a single computer for that particular bit of scaling. We then, of recent, in the last 2 to 3 years, looked at Kubernetes deploy of CKAN, and specifically using Amazon's Elastic Kubernetes services, and were really able to scale out large parts of the infrastructure through this way. We also learned very quickly that that comes with a cost, as it seems with most of this private cloud. But we put in extremely good monitoring services and alerts for when certain infrastructure goes down or potentially hitting errors whilst things were rapidly, or users were using things more. Just to give you an example of another data portal that we have is Africa Data Hub. So it was to support journalists telling stories. And again, they required a little bit larger data sets. So for that, we had a CKAN powering behind the scenes. So if you go to the datasets page, you'll see it is powered by CKAN. But I wanted to very quickly show you the journey of the dashboards. And I'm going to open up Flash Observer here. So this entire custom built system is being powered by CKAN. So all the queries are being sent directly to the CKAN database behind the scene, and it really has made the journey for building APIs through data sets very easy and simple. There was a lot of learnings along the way, like just how far we can push the system. And we are looking at testing out larger and even larger data sets and moving that in. But I think the Sleeping Beauty being the data store isn't used as much as I've seen in other CKAN instances around the world. And we're really trying to push the limit to see out the box what we can squeeze out of CKAN and the data visualizations over and above just the management system. Yeah, so that's been our journey in a nutshell. We've got 5 production CKAN implementations, and I'm really looking forward to continuing the journey. And we've worked very closely with Datopian and the CKAN Foundation along the way. So really appreciate all the efforts. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you for the great presentation. And now we are opening the floor for a Q&A session. So, you can raise your hand and go ahead, or you can drop your question in the chat.
Yeah, we got one from Nicholas Kellett. He said that for the Power BI Pro requirement, perhaps an option is to publish a quick 30 to 60-second video or animated GIF that samples what a user with the tool would see, at least to provide a quick visual and maybe help people make a case to stakeholder to get such a license. It's not a question.
Thanks for that suggestion. That's awesome. Thank you.
Just maybe while people are thinking of some questions, we did try some other BI alternatives, so not just going pure custom build. And in one of our other implementations, we used an open source software called Metabase. We're still working out a full pipeline between CKAN and any other BI tool that could automatically pull from the data store and hopefully make visualizations a lot easier. There has been some major updates to CKAN, which allow the resource view to show quite a bit, but that's obviously limited to a sample of the data set itself.
I have a question about the data stores, because for me that's a very interesting topic, and I'm not sure if I understood very well how it works. So if you can, explain again, like as I understood, these stories that you started with, they were static HTML pages at first that you were creating manually, and then from there you transition to Webflow. How does it work in real life now? Like, you said that you are out of the way. The municipality can upload these data stories without you there, but can you elaborate more on that? It's very interesting for me how it works.
I can speak to the data store. I'm not sure, Joe, if you can speak to the content management system. It's slightly different, and maybe I can just share screen very briefly.
Yes, that'd be great.
So for CKAN's data store, when you upload a data set, the data store provides a way to ingest the file into a database and make it accessible over API interface so other systems can connect into it. Now, this is particularly useful because you could connect up custom visualizations directly into the CKAN data store API. And in this particular case, you can see where we're grabbing a particular country with their latest consumer price inflation rates, which is directly being queried from CKAN's API sitting over here. Why this is useful is oftentimes in industry, one would have to build out the API interface for each particular use case or web applications, but CKAN provides this out the box. It does have some limits, but we are really trying to push it because proof of concepts through this particular flow makes it fairly easy. Joe, if you're able to speak to the content management system side.
Yes, sure. If my voice holds out, let's hope, touch wood. Unfortunately, I don't have edit access to show you how the CMS works. The EDGE team have those seats. However, it's a templatized approach. So when the EDGE team log in, they can see, for example, they can click on data stories. You click on data stories, and it brings up a form where they can enter in the header of the data story. Basically, actually, if I do share the portal, let me do that. So each of these elements that you can see here, this economy, inflation or CPI, the subheader, the author, the images, that's all in a form-based system. And then it's got a content space where you can upload images. We're working at the moment with the team to make these interactive. So we've already built in the functionality, but again, it requires them to build their charts in a system that allows publishing. So future data stories should have interactive charts. So this is all templatized. And then similarly, which is very cool, all of this templatized. So instead of clicking on data stories, you can click on the banner and you can change the photo if you want. You can click on each of these indicators and you can update the year, you can update the figure, you can update the types of indicators. The reason this was in the previous version of the portal, these indicators were added, and it's because what the team were finding is that the councillors and the municipal managers were still phoning them for these specific figures, and we wanted to bring down the amount of phone calls that the team was fielding. So we added these to the homepage because we found that very busy people in the city were not even clicking through to the dashboards where these figures existed. So we wanted to make sure that they were front and center. And they've been very keen, the stakeholders, on these indicators, and they've recently asked to add another 3, much to our designers' dismay. He finds this landing page quite busy, but they keep requesting that we add more and more information to the landing page so that it's easier and easier for people to access this information. And even the about page is built into the CMS as a template that can be edited. So when the team members leave or join, they can add new pictures, new team details. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. Form-based templatized CMS that they can log into. Something that was also very cool that the EDGE team did, trying to find an example of it, but they went through a period where they had the contracts and the procurement capabilities to translate the data stories. So we were seeing, here we go, here's an example of one. We were seeing that data stories were being translated into isiZulu as well, which is really useful, and it's something that we want to bring in as a standard feature to our data stories is to build in localization, so that more and more people have access, more and more of the public have access to those insights. But we really found that having the data store, the dashboards, and the data stories all really complementing each other from an SEO perspective, from an access perspective, is really very useful for a portal like this, which is aimed at such a broad range of stakeholders inside and outside of the city.
Thank you. Thank you for the answer. Okay, I can see there are some questions in the chat. So the first one is from Fergal. Great portal, thank you for the presentation. You mentioned needing to scale due to demand. Have you noticed usage of certain datasets or understood stakeholder needs satisfied?
I think that's a good question. We try and review the SEO analytics to see which datasets have been hit the most. Like I said, because of the mixture of bots accessing public datasets versus real people, it has been an initial challenge. However, with the recent security updates and Cloudflare's firewall rules that have really helped us, it's been more apparent where the traffic's coming from. So definitely there we can at least see top 5 datasets that are being used. And one in particular, we know during certain periods of time will get accessed more than others because their release of particular economic indicators in the city.
Okay, thanks. I'll read the next question, and after that I'll read the comments and stuff. So from Nicholas, have you thought about adding a map view or visualizing some of the data geospatially?
Yes, definitely. We looked at a recent geospatial plugin, which I think Datopian showcased, and it was looking really good. So definitely on the roadmap for our systems.
All right. I just want to voice what I see in the chat. There was a question from Marcelo that was answered by Wasim in the chat, but I'll read it anyways. Maybe people are not following the chat. So the question from Marcelo was, can you give me an idea of the size of the datasets? Megabytes? Is it gigabytes? And Wasim answered that the file store can technically take any file size, as the backend is S3 object storage. For the data stores above a few gigabytes of data, they see performance issue with the querying at the moment, so then would need to do a custom build. I don't know if you want to say something more about that. I think it's quite comprehensive, but still.
No, I think that covers it. So we're still trying to push the limits. There's obviously a point where performance needs to be done for full custom build for web application if you're receiving enough traffic. And there's a really good use case for where CKAN can fill the gap from a data store perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. So if people have other questions, please feel free to ask or drop them in the chat. I have one more question. I have 2 actually. So the first one is related to the feedback mechanism, which I really liked. How does it work? So people can select some things which are like they notice some bugs or stuff, and then what happens after that? If I saw it correctly when you demoed.
Yeah, so that goes to a backend system which we can see on our side. So for example, let's say they saw an issue with maybe the design here or the number was incorrect. Maybe a municipal official came in or another user just saw something was up. They could highlight it and they could add a comment. This number is incorrect. And when you save that and submit, you then submit with your email address and you can add further comments. And you can do multiple screenshots. You can do, you can mark stuff on the screen. And there's a few ways that user back allows the feedback to come through. Something else just related was that we tracked where users were clicking to some extent on user back. So it does allow us to see hotspots of certain areas or where maybe things weren't as user experienced or easily accessible. And yeah, we've done this pretty much across all our CKANs.
Yeah, I think it's a great feature. Can be very useful. It's always really useful to know what users think and to get feedback from them. Okay, and I'm curious about what were the biggest challenges that you faced, and generally, how did the collaboration between Open Cities Lab and the municipality went in general, and were there some challenges that you didn't expect?
Joe, I'll let you take that.
So in general, the relationship has always been excellent. We are an organization founded in Durban, which is eThekwini Municipality, and our path with the municipality has been one of shared learning and collaboration. And really, we've grown together with them, and our understanding of data and digital transformation in the public space has grown because of them. So yeah, always been a really great relationship. That the challenges I found that were most difficult came at a period where there were no technologists that we were working with in the city team. There were economists, data analysts, policy people, and they were used to commissioning researchers to write reports. They really, it was a steep learning curve to understand the time that it took to develop new features and to translate. So over COVID, we worked together with them to release a tool that helped stakeholders ascertain what grants and business support the municipality was offering them. And there was always a bit of frustration around how quick the features got out. And at the time, we were also a smaller organization, so we had less resources. So that was tricky. As mentioned, there was that time where we were fully custom and everything had to come through us for data stories. That was also a hairy time where they didn't understand why, when they got us the content, it was taking us a week to turn around. Why can you not just press a single button and it just shows, like the way that they do it now, basically? And so explaining those delays brought some tension into the relationship, which is why I think, especially from our side, on the partner-facing side, we're so grateful for the tech advancement in Webflow, which really enabled us to have conversations with the partner that was more about new features, bonus features, nothing that was actually on the direct pipeline to getting things out and help and then meeting their KPI.
Thank you. Let's see, we have some questions in the chat. So from Masoud, thanks for the presentation. Given that you got number of data sets, do you have in your pipeline any plan to utilize AI or AI agents to train the data or for automation purposes?
And that would be amazing. Maybe far down the pipeline, but definitely we want to see how an interactive AI can ingest some of the data sources that we're collecting. Again, a lot of it is public data available to be used and consumed. But there has to be, obviously, a user need somewhere there.
Okay, and we have a question from Bob. What kinds of things are you hoping to learn from others in the CKAN community? And he's asking about both technical and not technical things. I can see you've answered. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just put my side. I don't know, Joe, if you've got any thoughts.
Sorry, Wasim, did you say?
Yeah, I'll just put we're keen to see other implementations. We have seen already in many countries what they've done with CKAN. I even saw 1 or 2 commercial CKAN deployments mentioned. So yeah, I think we're keen to learn and bring everyone along the journey. And I love the spirit of the CKAN community.
All right. Thank you. I'm aware of time, so let's, if there, okay, let me see. Are there any other questions? If you have questions, please bring it now.
Sorry, have you read the question from Bob? What kinds of
Yes.
things? Okay, got
Yeah.
it.
Just did.
Yeah, that was the last question.
Just about your flow for. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's give people a few more seconds, and I will try to find my presentation so I can share my screen. I don't see any other questions, so yeah, I suggest we wrap up the session. So that's a wrap. Thank you. Big thanks to both of you for the great presentation and for bringing us inside the process. For me, it was really interesting to see the project, and it signals a very nice trend, I would say. I think organizations are moving and governments are moving from simply data publishing to data understanding and communication, and that's a lovely thing to see. Like they're no longer interested in just building portals and dashboard, but also to help people make sense of them. So for me, this is great, and I really enjoyed the project. So thank you a lot. And thanks for all the people that joined. We will share the recording soon. I do have a few, yeah, we have some thanks in the chat. I do have a few closing remarks. So if you want to have a talk at CKAN Monthly Live, you can fill out the form, which is available in our meeting notes document, which is pinned in the chat, or you can write directly to me. We are open for suggestions for next year. For this year, we're already full, but for next year, we are very open. And as you know, we are always interested in interesting talks. So don't hesitate and just contact us. You can suggest a topic. There is a file. It's available in the meeting notes document. It's called Suggestions for Topics and Speakers. You can access it and you can suggest a topic there. Ideally, you want to tag me in some way so that I get a notification, although I do monitor. But still, like if you have a topic that you'd like to see here, yeah, just put it there and I'll try to accommodate that. If you haven't subscribed for our newsletter, you can do it in the meeting notes document. It's also available on our website, CKAN.org. And as you know, there are plenty of ways to get involved, or if you need help to get it. So if you go to CKAN.org/community, you will find a lot of links, GitHub discussions, our Gitter chat, our social media channels, the dev meetings that happen every Tuesday and Thursday, and a variety of other ways. So yeah, do it. Go there if you need it. And of course, we can stay connected. We have a LinkedIn channel. You can follow us there. We don't share anything which is not interesting. It's always interesting. So yeah, you can trust that no spam. You will see no spam from us. And of course, if you'd like to revisit this session and share it with your network, the recording will be available soon on our YouTube channel. And all relevant links, as always, will be in the video description and also in the meeting notes document. And thank you for joining us today. Thanks to Wasim and Joanne for the great presentation. Till we meet again, keep those data fires burning. Thank you.